Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Mending Threads. This is your safe place and your stronghold for whole body wellness. This is a transformation series, and our purpose is to bring healing and increase the healing within our community. This is a transformation series, as I say. So today we're going to have a topic that brings about transformation, visible transformation. And the topic is going to be mediation and services. So we're looking at service, particularly during this time of year, service and serving for a purpose, and how that looks, how does it sound in our community as we move on. So today we have with us two exciting people that I'm pleased to bring on. And we have Miss Twala Lochner, who's visiting there at the center with Dr. Deborah Green. So I'm going to interview both of them this morning, and they will let you know that they are mother-daughter team with us. And so I'm excited to present them. Dr. Green is with Pathway to Yes mediation service under the WRS Center for Women and Their Families and Ms. Twala Lochner. And so we have four people on our team to bring this healing. They're going to tell you some things because I want to know more about this. And of course, they have many other qualifications. So you'll know that they have background in counseling. And I'm just going to ask them some other things and how it all fits together. Thank you. So welcome to our show this morning. And I know it's going to be a treat to you. So somebody texted me the other day and said, well, why would you want to do mediation? And what is all of this about? So I talked to them about the rise of we know about that, the Harris County Statistics in Violence and Family Violence. And we know that it has risen to a great, till it's now considered a public health issue, particularly in Harris County and many other areas. So I'm going to ask uh, somebody to explain to me why mediation. What is mediation about, and why is that so important?
Yes, so mediation that we provide through WRC Houston, We Connect, it brings together individuals who have a dispute. And with that is through church organizations. And the main point and goal is to have whole body wellness. And so it is very important and paramount that all of the emotional issues that people are having during this time that are related to grief, related to anger, related to situations that are unresolved. So some of these situations may also be where a person is feeling that things are unjust and that they are unjustly treated. So a part of what we do is build a bridge for these people to be able to connect their anger, their grief. We're able to hear their stories and build a bridge and a connection with them that builds trust. Once we build the trust with them, then we're able to really get down deep and discuss what their true issues are. And most issues are unresolved anger and unresolved emotions. So this way, we're able to, after we build trust and figure out what their story is and what the other person's story is that may be coming through mediation, then we're able to build that trust and then start the road to recovery, start the road for them to be able to resolve any of the conflicts that they may have.
So can you tell me how the two of you sort of decided to get into the mediation field? You know, what really brought you to secure those skills?
For me, I'll take that question. Thank you for asking. And for me, it came about as a result of my work with Child Protective Services. And I realized that at the basis of all of the issues that sometimes families have, especially related to children, is some unresolved issue that is related to anger. Someone feels one way, the other party feels another way. But in order to care for the children properly, we needed to come together on a solution or resolution that would allow both parties to feel, in other words, a win-win situation. Because when you're working with children, that is exactly what you want, is a win-win situation. And that's how much coming into the mediation field, I felt like it was very important, because with children, the primary issue is that they are taken care of and that they feel safe as well. So when adults cannot resolve their issues, then a lot of times the children that may suffer as a result of that. So that was it. And then in addition to that, to broaden that scope, then I began having mediation for all different types of issues. But my
Mm-hmm.
primary reason for doing it was because of my love of children and my love of family, and relate those issues related to that.
Right.
And with
So,
me,
mm,
I started this process basically because I am an educator. I'm a certified principal, EC through 12. I taught school and principal certification and things like that. And what I did notice is that there was some type of breakdown between the communication of the school and the communication with the parents. And so I began mediation with that as an advocacy to help parents that do not know exactly what their rights are. So they are powerful and they're able to know what their rights really are. Many parents just show up, they don't know right from left what exactly is happening, and they feel bombarded because it may be one or two of them and a whole staff team that is
mm-hmm.
discussing an issue. So I got into this more through the education field and
Mm-hmm.
advocacy for parents and parents' rights, and also to build another bridge between the communication breakdown that was happening between administrators, teachers, and parents. And therefore, that again affected the children. So that was one of the main reasons why I got into that. And it was through BCDI Houston, which is Black Child Development Institute for Houston. They began to do statistics for Texas and look at what exactly are the issues for the Black and Brown communities regarding expulsions, even at a very young age, or what they call soft expulsions, where the kid is removed from the classroom and set right outside of the door, because really they're not supposed to have that type of thing if they're second grade and below. So a lot of parents really had some issues, and then that impacted the child's growth. It impacted the child's grades. And so the mediation was a tool to help bridge that gap and to fix that communication from a parent perspective and from an administrative um, perspective, so that we could have positive outcomes for both parties.
Did either of you find um like a source or a reason in your work for the frustration or I'm really trying to look at that if you're working with different people, are there different reasons um for the heated response to stress or trauma or change or whatever it could be. You know,
Yes,
we've talked before about how people respond to trauma. And I know during the pandemic we had an increase of, I think it was 60 some or more percent of crime, violent family violence. And we're looking at the cause of that during this period. Did you find any general causes for the increase?
yes, absolutely. Domestic violence it definitely has increased, and also just in general conflict. And so I would say that what we found is it's based on grief, anger, as well as fear about the future, feeling again that a situation is unjust, that one party is at fault, the other party feels that they're at fault. So the main thing that we have to do is communicate. In order to communicate, you have to bring the two parties together. So not just
Mm-hmm.
domestic violence, but it even could be um, an institutional type of thing where I feel that maybe the person that I'm renting from, for example, is overcharging me or not creating a situation where I can live in the home and I still have to pay my rent. So sometimes instead of going to court, a mediation can resolve some of those issues because again, it's based on communication, fear of the future, wondering what's going to happen to me, wonder what's going to happen to my children. And domestic violence, as you said, is a very, very huge issue.
I was doing some reading on it in the past, and especially to prepare for your visit today. And it was saying something about that the values that the mediator must study the values of the participating parties in order to understand that most mediation or many problems come about because like you gave an example of the renter and the apartment, that the two groups may have different values about the same thing, and then two different opinions about how it should be resolved. So, can you speak to um, the value situation and how Pathway to Yes handles that?
Well, one thing that is very important is that we first identify what the problem is, identify the key emotions that are causing the problem or conflict. And once we are able to identify that, then we're able to hear the stories of the people individually or together. And we are, as mediators, we are not an interested party. So we're not invested or vested to either party. What our job is to do is to find a common ground where the people can work together. So that's part of it. And the other part of it, go ahead. It looks like you were going to say
No,
something.
I wanted to ask the question there because I want to. Okay, for example, when persons come into the country and they have a different belief system about how to resolve disputes. Some people believe in a little bit more force. Some people believe in only the man should speak. Some people believe in different ones. And I'm trying to see how, when you're speaking of communication, how would you handle the different beliefs?
Well, I can say that one issue that is really important is exactly what you said, which is the cultural differences. So, in some cultures, as you said, then the men are supposed to handle the situation and the women are supposed to be silent. And then in other situations, the women are able to speak up and the man may be silent because it's dealing with education in which the man feels that the female is the caregiver and thus should handle the issues to resolve them
Yes,
with
yes.
school and the
Hmm.
education part of that. So one
Hmm.
of the main things that we do when we do our assessment is we figure out what those key cultural differences are. So I can give you an example. In the school system, there was a principal of Turkish descent, and then there was a family that was of Nigerian descent. And so, with those two, the woman in the Nigerian sense was able to speak up and were very in control of the situation. But in the Turkish culture, women are supposed to be quiet and the man is supposed to handle it. So we had to kind of go through what the cultural differences were to be able to begin the mediation process. So if you have something even as simple as different religions and how you resolve something in your religion. Some religions you pray, other religions you may light candles. There are several prayers. So we also have to wade through all of that and decide how much of an impact is their cultural background involved in that particular situation. So in this situation, the Turkish man was very offended by the woman who spoke up very clearly and, was very direct, because in their country it was very indirect. And if you're coming from a country, say like China or Turkey and different places like that, speaking up can get you put in jail. Speaking
Right.
up against the system has dire consequences, not only for you, but your entire family. So we have ran into different situations where we may have a Chinese person and a Black person, and they're both trying to get a resolution, but the softness of the tone or the raised tone may either offend each party or have a different understanding and effect. And so we have
Yes.
to go through all of those emotions, figure out their cultural differences, figure out their modes of communication. And we do that through that process when we are interviewing the different clients separately. So then we can go back and do our research and figure out how that communication can happen and where that mediation can be resolved, and they can both, again, have a resolution that they both agree on.
So I wanted to know because Dr. Green spoke of families. So I do know, so when you're in the family setting, I know it's a similar pattern, but what are some of the variations that you may use or can? My question would be, do you use the same model with parents and their children as you use with husband and wife? You see what I'm saying in terms of age. Mhm.
Well, of course, the different models would have to be handled depending upon the situation. But the key
Mhm.
component that I believe is anger, frustration, stress, and it's all related to communication. So when we begin the process, as Ms. Lautner said, we have to first of all do our homework. And our homework is to address each party individually and to talk to them individually about their concerns. Then when we bring them together, then what we have to do is then discuss concerns, discuss what the purpose of the mediation is, what are their individual goals, what is it that they want to receive from the mediation, come to terms
Mhm.
with that. And then in addition to that, we have to look at how we're going to communicate. You know,
Are you in the same room or do you have them in different rooms or when you're getting information or talking to them about their beliefs and everything?
in the beginning, in the very beginning, we have them in separate rooms. Then we
I
come
see.
together, and when we come together, the purpose is to develop a way to communicate moving forward. Each party then addresses what their concerns are individually in front of each other, and then
Yes.
together we determine what the outcome and the goal is. What is it that you would like to achieve on both parts?
Yes.
Then we separate again, and then we go to our individual rooms and we begin to talk and to unbraid more of the space. So it's sort of like you see mending threads, for example, there are all of these
Yes.
threads involved. And so
Mm-hmm.
we're unbraiding all of these different threads to come
Mm-hmm.
up with what is the central issue and what is it that you can accept. And once we do all of that as an individual, then each person or each group, there's more strengthened. Then we come back together, and then that's when the real work occurs and we begin to resolve the issues.
So I wanted to look at the faith component. Do you engage the persons when you're interviewing them? How do you handle their different religious practices or faith beliefs during the mediation or prior to the mediation?
Well,
How do you?
both. I
Mhm.
would say both, because whatever the underlying cause is, when we first begin, of course, we're talking to them, but when we separate out in various rooms, what is most important to you? That's the
Mhm.
question. What do you want to get out of this? That's the second question. What are you willing to give? And what are some things that you feel
Mhm.
that you can't do? That would be the third question. And embedded in all of that is threaded in sometimes culture, sometimes religion,
Mhm.
sometimes faith, and just the
Mm-hmm.
core beliefs of whether or not you receive some type of injustice. So, so the answer to your question is that we do consider faith, we do consider religion
Mm-hmm. And so during your interviews and your
during your
talking and
interview.
whatever
Yeah,
like that. Right.
yeah.
Well, one of the things that I noticed is that I was doing some other reading, and they were saying that pretty much the victim of the family violence was pretty much female in general, but and that pretty much the 68% of domestic violence tend to be Euro Americans, in a sense, I guess, because of the larger population, and that people are hurt, as you say, during these disputes because of intimacy, because of the hurt, the deep wounds around the closeness of the emotions, because of expectations that they have um, within their groups, their extended families, their families, and it was going on to talk. One of the articles that I was reading went on to talk about. I think it was the Defense Journal, and it was going on to talk about that when you're involved in mediation, it is important to find out. I want to ask the question on this: the extended families impact on the two parties. Okay, because not culturally speaking, in a sense that. So they were saying that when in fact someone kills or hurts or maims an individual, what's really some of the dynamics that are not usually involved when the police investigate or whatever is to find, like, the mother-in-law. You're finding more of the mother-in-law, the father's intervention or whatever, because of the close knit families. Some families are more close knit than others, and that when the mediation is occurring or the investigation, they're not asking enough questions about what impacted the final decision to harm each other, to hurt each other, or to make threats to each other. And that the healing may come about through the extended family. I wanted you to speak on that a little bit because it's a different, culturally speaking, it's a different model,
Yes.
okay, than the Eurocentric model. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is. It is. Again, during that process when we're asking questions and assessing the situation, we do have to find the key components. We have found that some families, the mother-in-law comes in and lives with the family once they have children, and then that may cause some type of conflict because the mother-in-law would like the children to be raised a certain way or attend certain schools, and the other parent feels like they have no power because they're following in the footsteps of whatever the husband is saying. So they feel like they're not being heard and their opinions are not being taken seriously. So the culture piece of this is very important. And so the extended family, we do have to ask questions about, is it a patriarch or is it a matriarch? What type of situation that we're dealing
Mm-hmm.
with? And sometimes, if it is a mother-in-law or a father-in-law or extended family living within the home, then we must bring those family members in as well because they are part of the solution. And that really does help with the cultural aspects of different things. So yes,
Mm-hmm.
you're right. We do have to think about the extended family. The Eurocentric model only talks about the two individuals that are having the conflict, and it does not expound to include
Mm-hmm.
other family members such as mother-in-laws, father-in-laws. And then we also have to think about those cultures that have prearranged marriages. So with the prearranged marriages, there are certain things that are expectations of maybe the woman may have to stop working because now they're raising children. Even if they're highly successful, doctors, lawyers, it doesn't matter what the profession that they're in, they're still finding that there's some conflict that happens culturally, the expectations. And so we have to also deal with that. And that is a different model than the Eurocentric model, which just deals with the two parties individually and
Right.
not the rest
Mm-hmm.
of the family.
I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a really good point that you brought out as well, because I can recall of a situation where the family, the parents were married because it was an arranged marriage, but then they moved to the United States of America. They were from a different country, but it extended not only the culture of the parents, but as well the children. So then you can imagine children growing up, but they're born in the United States of America with all of the different values that the United States of America has, which is very different oftentimes than their parents. And so then that in itself provides some conflict. And then, especially in a situation where a woman has been considered to be quiet and all of that different thing, but in the United States, we're considered to advocate for each individual can advocate for themselves. But I did have a situation very similar to that, and extended down to the children, and it became a conflict situation between parents and children, and then the children and the individual parents as well. So the father may felt one way, the mother feels a different way, and the influence of the United States, our culture, the community in which they were living had, it had an impact on their communication. It provided anger in some situations where one side felt that one parent should be doing one thing and the other one felt the other parent should be doing something different. And so it did provide an opportunity for them to talk about their concerns and their issues, and for their individual advocates, in that we have always more than one mediator to help that person to express how they feel.
Yes. So one of the, so I see what you're saying. So the other thing is that do you discuss coaching or counseling during this time afterward as a service or a referral service, or how do you handle people who may need additional assistance, and how do you determine if they need any additional assistance? Some general way. If the mediation is having difficulty. Am I
Well,
being?
one thing is all is through the community connect portion
Mhm.
where we have resources of different organizations, have resources of different advocates, um, doctors, lawyers, and and mental health and wellness as well. We have people who we collaborate with and we're able to refer people to when we notice that the mediation process is way deeper and that they need different types of services. So then we're able to refer them to the other services, and then they can come back to us again to see if we can help with that mediation. And so sometimes we do have to refer them so to a psychiatrist or a medical doctor, because we all know that all of this stress causes your body to have other issues. So people have higher rates of heart attack, stroke, diabetes, all of these type of things that can affect your body from not resolving the conflict.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's one of the things that we address as well. So we do talk about sleeping habits. We do talk about eating habits. And that also plays in a part of when we are doing our interview to know if for their particular intervention, if they're going to need a nutritionist, if they're going to need a sleep study done, if they're going to need heart testing and monitoring, and even just anxiety, dealing all with the situation. So we have other resources and other professionals that we work with so that we were able to make sure that the whole body, the whole person is able to be addressed, and then bring them back to mediation to do the final portions of that when they've had some healing in the areas that they may not have even realized that they had an issue
I would like to add to that that if we overlook or we ignore the emotional components of the individual, their concerns, it often results in not having a solution to the remediation, not having an agreeable solution if we do overlook the emotions, the stressors that are causing the conflict. And so they are very, very important. And when that does happen, then we definitely will need to refer them outside of the mediation process.
Mm-hmm. And I know that many of the people have been referred to the battering intervention, the BIPP program. There, when the anger and the frustration seem to be systemic or consistent or related, they're recommended for training and how to handle the anger within a family, a corporation, a business, and whatever. So I think that you all are right on track with something here. This is a good thing. And also, what do you think about our coaches? We're currently training pastors and leaders in the community to for international certified become an internationally certified mental health coach to help people. What do you think about those persons as to help with referrals or to really help assist the individuals that you're working with?
Well, it's very, very important. So if you have a pastor that has a flock, has the people who he preaches to, then you have people who feel more connected to those individuals, and they may feel comfortable with expressing different issues that they may not feel comfortable with direct a mediator who has no connection to them other than the mediation process. So, as a first responder, having your pastors, religious people, and even some of the doctors having that type of certification, then they're able to do a in-depth um, like they're able to do a in-depth assessment that closely relies on whatever their religious preferences are and their comfortability level. And so I think that they are a very key component, because sometimes people don't want to talk to a mediator or a lawyer. They feel more comfortable with talking to a preacher or a priest or a bishop or someone else like that, because they believe that that faith that they have is also impacting how they view the situation.
You know,
Honestly,
there was, say that again, Dr. Green.
yes, I think that the mental health coaching program is a wonderful program. And it's a program in which lay people can assist. So, as Ms. Lager said, first of all, usually if you have a problem, it's not unusual for someone to then go and talk to their pastor or someone within the church. And if those individuals are trained to assist them and to recognize when a person has a mental health condition that's beyond just their talking and their expertise, then they again can also refer them to people that can help them.
I know that you told me earlier that the WRC Pathway to Yes mediation is going to be held as an opportunity for churches in the area, and also there'll be a virtual component of it. So I was wondering, how would a person handle that within a school? For example, you mentioned a school. I know that there was an author, um, a lady, Dr. Whitehall, a lady that had a research study, and she was looking at how mediation was used in the school setting when they were training, giving orientation to teachers as to how to use the mediation process, which I'm hoping that we're going to begin to do. with your assistance and participation, that we would begin to do the mediation in schools so that teachers can work with themselves, work with each other better, but also with children who are having the anger and the fighting and the harm of each other to get it. So she did this study and she found um, that 68% of conflicts were able to be mediated in school without a violence, by bringing the students together when you could hear them arguing. So there were a decrease in fighting and arguing and threats and harm within the school. So I can see that this can be a viable intervention for young people. So how do you I would seem to me that we'd have to then begin to look at, and I just want to see how attitudes of youth, talking about a different age group, because of the peer, um, like a peer conflict or need for
Mhm.
higher need for approval by your peers, by adolescent. And so I was just trying to see, how do you do training prior to that to change attitudes in schools, or how would you go about doing it, working with adolescents differently, or if you would?
Yes, there are several components to what you just said. One is educating the teacher, and the teacher being able to recognize what the signs are, then that gives more compassion to deal with the students. So, for example,
We didn't hear you because you were frozen. Something has started freezing you.
some type of training. That
We
training,
we didn't hear you, Miss Lochner. Your
okay.
uh your whole picture went out. We didn't quite hear what you were saying.
Okay, so what I said was it's very important for teachers to have this type of skill because they're actually mandated reporters. And as a mandated reporter, they need to be able to correctly identify the issues that the students are having. So is it just that they're hungry? Is it just that they don't have enough clothes? Is it materials and supplies that they're missing? And that's why they're acting out. The main thing is for those teachers to be able to have compassion and knowledge of what the real deeper issue is. Because that is one of those missing components when children have issues in schools. Usually, they have several incidences before they bring in a mediator, before they bring in other things. So you have a lot of discipline and
Mhm.
over disciplining that happens in schools, in which if the teacher was educated, so for instance, for children's protective services, the teachers are required to have, and it's like a video that they have to watch and know the signs of child abuse and things like that. So we need something that is similar to that, where the teachers can look at mental health stressors and be able to identify that in children and then refer those children to the counselor, and the counselor is able to bring in mediators such as us from the outside to help deal with the situation. So it's very, very important that all of our mandated reporters actually have more information about mental health and wellness.
Right. That's just really right on target there. There's so what you're speaking about is also similar to what Baltimore did. Baltimore has they recognized that the family violence was also related to community violence, and that the same areas that had higher family violence also had higher community violence and shootings, and so they found that weapons had a lot to do with when the mediation to ask the question of that and the attitude change and etc. So they connected the um, program, the mediation program, to the community train the police to the community, civic associations, those areas, and the violent rate went down because they promoted an attitude of resolution, a positive attitude in the community that all problems can be resolved with intention. And so everybody would wait a moment. You know how you have commercials on and public service announcements and all that. So that's even something to talk with representatives and persons about, is to help get this movement on, this public health movement on. And so I'm looking, this is an exciting thing. So how would you, what she described was that we could look at the statistics, and there is also a diagram of the program of how they really started with the mediation in the schools, the young people. They did a campaign. They had coaches to go out and work along with people. Even gangs began. It was a decrease in gang warfare. All of that because they gave them a superordinate goal to change their community. And they would recognize the leaders in the community or the leaders in the school um, as doing that. And so she was able to identify that as time has gone on, we have stopped doing that. We have stopped giving recognition to peace. And as we look at the news, we're just constantly giving recognition to violence. I'll say. So when I know your role is mediation, um, and bringing harmony and peace to persons. So I just wanted to get your opinion on how, other than that, how could we do that through the churches? How could we do that within families? How can we bring on appreciation um, for mediation in families and mediation or understanding of joining within families to decrease violence? What would be your thoughts about that?
And I think that the most critical factor would be communication, communication, communication. And sometimes we're talking, but we're not communicating. So with mediation, then it's an avenue for people to express themselves and to be heard. And once you do that, then that hopefully resolves a lot of issues. But I want to jump right back into talking a little bit more about within the school system, if you don't mind, because
Yes.
some really, really good points that you brought up. And I wanted to share that we have before trained an entire school, and it ended up
Mhm.
getting 900 and something participants. We trained all of the students per grade level, and then we trained all of the teachers, and we also, in addition to that, offered the training to the parents during the PTO meeting. Very, very well received, and it was very, very helpful from the community perspective, from the student perspective as well.
Mhm.
So that is something that we definitely think could work. The
Mhm.
other thing I wanted to say is that we could also train students to become mediators. So that
Mhm.
could be a process within the school that we can offer to them. And of course, they would have to have some supervision and all of that. And the teachers, the parents would have the final say. But the students
Mhm.
themselves could be mediators with other students to help them express themselves as well. But
Mhm.
but now getting back to your question about how we would offer it in the community, in churches, etc. And it's about a campaign of putting the information out there for mental health coaches. And there are various avenues that we can do that through letters, through advertising. Word of mouth actually really, really works more than anything else. Would you like to add anything
Mhm.
else to that, Ms. Lightner?
Well, yes. When you're thinking about these different programs, so as Dr. Green said, with going into the schools, it was very, very successful because it gave children the opportunity for a platform for their voices to be heard. And then when we worked with the parents, it gave the parents the opportunity for their voices to be heard. And also the administrators and the teachers, because they all had different perspectives on how to remedy a situation. Some were heavy ended on discipline or demerits and different things like that. And so we come in and we teach them how to address an issue in a positive manner. We also teach them how to reword what they're saying so that
Mm-hmm.
it does not come across as blaming someone else. So, for instance, when you did this, it made me feel this. So that type of discussion, instead of saying you did this and you tried to do this and you did, that type of thing is more in the blaming. But to be able to say to someone, when you said, I didn't like your hair, I felt that you were calling me ugly. So what it does is it gives power to that person to discuss how they feel. And it also gives power to the person who said the initial comment to say, oh, I didn't mean it that way. And I didn't mean to make you feel that way. So again, it's that communication part. And we teach people how to really effectively get their points across without the blame game. Just personally,
Mm-hmm.
how did it make you feel? And why did it make you feel that way? And then the other party is able to, per se, step in the shoes of the other person
Mm-hmm.
and be able to have compassion and understanding of how their words could have made a person feel a certain way. That works across the board, whether you're talking about young or old or very experienced or unexperienced. If you're talking about doctors, lawyers, no matter what the profession is, that's one of the key
Mm-hmm.
components, is for a person to be able to express how they were made to feel by what the person has said or done. And that person is also able to say what their intentions were. And once you kind of wade through that, you're able to get to the root cause of the issue. And most of it is anxiety, anger,
Mm-hmm.
misinterpretation of what someone else has said. So we're able to get a clear understanding, and then they're able to clarify their intent and what the outcome should be. So it's very, very important that the mediation process is learned from your lay people, your teachers, your doctors, your police officers, who are able to look at a situation not as only just a criminal situation, but to look at it as a mental health situation. Because we know by looking at statistics that the majority of the people who are in prison, mental health and wellness issue that hasn't been addressed.
That's
Yes.
exactly right. It's resolved. And I wanted to, you brought up a real good point, which is when you're doing the training, especially in the school system, we trained all staff, regardless of their level. So that meant all administrators, all teachers, the nurse, and any person, the counselors, everyone was trained because you want, as you have mentioned, it's a movement. It's a different
Yes.
way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And so with the coaching, it is perfect for certain situations because it brings in a mutual perspective, and it also brings in a neutral perspective when you have that mental health coach that's there.
You all have really put a little put a light on it, so if I could say that. And it even brings us to the whole idea. It is not to necessarily win the way that I want to win or have the topic. It has a purpose, and speaking of purpose would be to for harmony, for joining, for teaming, for coming together for something a little bit higher, and that the answer is not yours or mine, but the answer is somewhere between the two of us. And each of us can then get a lot of what we want. We would just have to give up a little bit of something in order to come together. And sometimes even what we come up with, it seems to listen to you guys that it can be even better because we may find something that we didn't know that we wanted that might be right there. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's about a win-win. What is it that
Yes.
you can give and what is it that you can actually give up, receive, and all of that win-win. So where is that middle ground for us? What is it that you are able to say, I can let go of this? The other party can say, I can let go of this. Okay, I can feel good about if we do this. So it's that middle ground, that win-win. So you're
Yes.
absolutely correct.
So I hope that we have someone in our listening audience, whether they're families or an organization, that would like to join the Community Connect. If you really want to, and I'm so glad that the two of you are aboard with the Faith Connect, the Community Connect. And if anybody's interested, you can call 281-407-3190. And our mediation, we've been doing the mediation for some time, but the two persons you see here will be taking leadership with the mediation. And we will be contacting schools and organizations. If you see a role in healing the pain that our community is experiencing, please give us a call. Email us at ips.health, the number one, at gmail.com, and leave us a message that you want some kind of participation or help. We would love to have you aboard. And we meet currently, I think the time has changed to 5 p.m. Has it
Yes,
not?
yes.
5 p.m. on Mondays. And that way we can join team lock arms and we can make something happen and we can achieve great, we can meet the purpose, join the purpose of healing our community. I
And
want to thank the,
one other aspect that is very important that we do through mediation is also intergenerational
yes,
mediation, because some communication issues have to do with age groups. Your Generation X, your baby boomers. And so we're able to make those connections as well.
I
and
know
we
our time
also
is
have
up. I
a
know our time.
bilingual, say that
Yes,
again.
Bilingual.
bilingual. I was about to say that we also have bilingual individuals, and I realize our time is up. We're so super excited and thankful to you for allowing us to be
Yes,
here this morning. And again, this is a movement, and we look
it
forward
is.
to
It
continue the
is.
movement
Right.
of
This
health
is,
and wellness of our community.
thank you. So thank you for being here, getting up early this morning and preparing and being ready. And it will make a difference. Your input will make a difference. And I feel it in my heart. I know it in my head, and I've been led to know that this is what's needed. Um,
And we have sign language. Don't forget that.
Oh, forgot. Oh, that's right. We do. We have Spanish. We have bilingual for
Yes.
Hispanic. We have sign language for persons who may not be able to say it in the normal fashion that we use with our lips. But we use the lips, but we may not have a voice. But we know we give a voice. Okay, we
Yes.
make a voice happen. So I want to give some notices that we have. Don't forget, as I said, the Community Connect joining us. You want to call. Our website is running across the screen, www.wrc-houston.org. And you can sign up for the mental health coach. Please make a difference. We have received partnership scholarships of $2,000 or more for each person. All you have to do is to pay 150 for the taxes and the fees, and you also get additional um, cultural competence training and trauma interventions and mind, body, spirit trauma interventions. And you will get separate certificates for those. It's an online course. You do not have to come in the building. You will be able to take it online, meet with us on Tuesday evenings for a couple of months in the evening at 7 o'clock. The study is at your pace. And I look forward to sharing this in the news with you. Our first mental health coaching graduates will be on the 17th, I think it is Saturday, if that
Yes.
is the 17th
I think
of
April.
April, and we will take a photo ops for that. You will see the pictures everywhere because we're so proud of those persons taking a step saying that I will make a difference in my community and in my life. I want to thank all of you for being here. If you have any questions, give us a call, leave us a message on our website, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. I want to thank Ms. Twala Lochner, our principal and educator and our sign language professional. And I want to thank Dr. Deborah Green, who chairs the Community Connect, and the two of them for the path, directing the Pathway to Yes Mediation Clinic. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Audience, remember this: renew beliefs, rebuild faith, and reconnect families and communities. For it is not the circumstance we meet, it is the manner in which we respond that determines health, happiness, and success. Same time, same place, God willing. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye, everyone.